a teenage voice from a small British town, is quietly reshaping global music conversations. In a media environment saturated with new artists each day, very few manage to capture international attention without a major label's push or a viral controversy. Yet, one name has been appearing again and again in trending discussions, music indices, and digital charts: Lucy Thomas. Born in Wigan, Lancashire, Thomas first stepped onto the public stage as a young teen, and in a surprisingly short time, she has positioned herself as one of the most talked-about young vocalists of the decade. What makes this particularly notable is the absence of a dramatic scandal or media narrative surrounding her rise. Instead, audiences seem drawn to the clarity and emotional pull of her voice. Her early performance on The Voice Kids UK became a turning point, not because she won, but because thousands of viewers reacted strongly to the rawness of her delivery. That moment set off a pattern we continue to see today: videos, postings, and comment sections filled with people expressing sincere emotional reactions to her performances. As digital reporters, we've seen trends come and go, but few escalate this steadily. The interest didn't plateau after her television appearance. Instead, it expanded into a multi-year surge across streaming platforms, online music boards, and YouTube analytics, a trend worth examining closely. How does a quiet teenager from Wigan become a topic of international reporting? When coverage first surfaced about Lucy Thomas, many outlets were struck not by an elaborate backstory but by its simplicity. She grew up in a standard British household in Wigan, a region known more for its sporting culture than producing global vocal talents. Her early years were marked by structured voice training, school performances, and a steady development of her technical foundation. However, what stood out to early observers was the emotional maturity in her tone, something frequently commented on by vocal specialists. Thomas first gained mainstream recognition at age 14 through The Voice Kids UK. While she did not secure the top spot, her audition triggered significant engagement online, prompting analysts to note that her impact was not tied to competition rankings, but to audience response. Soon after the show, she was offered a professional recording opportunity, a rare occurrence for contestants who do not win. This early contract signaled that industry professionals saw long-term potential in her, even before the public fully caught on. Reporters observing her development now reference these early indications as the first sign that her career trajectory would not follow the typical path. Instead of fading after the show, she quietly gathered momentum, making her rise a case study in organic audience growth. Why did a contestant who didn't win end up becoming the show's most-watched alum? In most televised music competitions, the spotlight traditionally falls on winners or finalists. Yet, Lucy Thomas' experience defied that expectation. Following her semi-final exit from The Voice Kids UK, there was no dramatic media swirl or headline-grabbing controversy. What happened instead was more unusual. Despite not taking the top position, Thomas received immediate interest from Cavendish Records. Industry reporters took note because signing a non-winner so quickly suggested her performance had created a deeper impact behind the scenes. Analysts examining this decision suggested that her tone, control, and ability to handle challenging vocal pieces at a young age positioned her as a long-term investment. While many young singers face difficulties transitioning from television exposure to sustained relevance, Thomas bypassed that slump entirely. She began releasing professionally produced music within a year, allowing her to maintain continuity with her growing audience. Her trajectory highlights an often overlooked truth in the industry: competition outcomes rarely predict actual long-term potential. In Thomas' case, the early setback of not winning may have inadvertently benefited her by allowing her to build a career free from the immediate pressures typically placed on winners. Reporters covering her development consistently emphasize how this unconventional path set the tone for the steady, measured rise that followed. How did a teenager's YouTube uploads outperform entire label-backed campaigns? As Thomas transitioned into full-time recording, her output increased significantly. In 2019, she released her debut album, marking the beginning of a multi-year pattern. Consistent, high-quality releases that found their audience not through aggressive promotion but through organic discovery. Her albums, Premiere, Encore, Timeless, Destiny, and more recently Beyond, demonstrated a deliberate artistic direction focused on theatrical ballads, emotional storytelling, and vocal-driven arrangements. During this same period, her YouTube channel became one of her strongest assets. Music analysts noted a sharp rise in engagement metrics, growing subscription numbers, high retention rates, and a notable trend where viewers who watched one performance often binge-watched several more. This level of sustained attention is uncommon for young classical crossover artists, making her digital presence a frequent subject of industry reports. Her videos began reaching millions of views consistently, often trending in multiple countries. This type of performance, steady, reliable, and global, has made her one of the most successful young ballad artists in the online sphere. The story, from a reporter's angle, is not about overnight virality, but about long-form cumulative growth, a rare narrative in today's fast-cycling music climate. Experts say her voice shouldn't sound this developed at her age, so what's happening? Music critics and vocal specialists examining Thomas' performances repeatedly point to the same qualities: tonal purity, breath control, and emotional depth that surpass typical expectations for a singer her age. Her approach to song interpretation relies heavily on restraint and clarity, avoiding excessive runs or stylistic embellishments. This has led many analysts to categorize her as a purist vocalist, a label associated with singers who prioritize the message of a song over technique-driven showmanship. Interestingly, her song choices further amplify these strengths. Her catalog leans toward theatrical classics, emotional ballads, and songs traditionally performed by experienced vocalists. Delivering these with authenticity at her age creates a striking contrast, one that reporters often describe as unexpectedly mature. Audience responses consistently highlight this contrast as the main reason they feel drawn to her performances. Viewer comments frequently describe feeling calmed, moved, or surprised, reactions that data analysts suggest correlate with high retention in music content. From a news perspective, her appeal is not built on spectacle but on an understated vocal presence that resonates across demographics, a factor increasingly rare in digital-first artists. One cover quietly passed tens of millions of views, without trending on mainstream charts. Among her many recordings, several stand out for their unusually strong audience response. Her rendition of Hallelujah, for example, became one of her most widely viewed performances, accumulating tens of millions of views over time. Analysts found it notable that the video did not rely on algorithmic spikes or controversy-driven attention. Instead, it grew steadily through shares, international reposts, and repeat listens. Other standout performances include her versions of Unchained Melody, Memory, and multiple duets with her sister, Martha Thomas. These performances became a signature feature of her channel, demonstrating both emotional connection and a family dynamic that appealed to viewers. Reporters who track digital music trends have highlighted that Thomas' content tends to generate unusually high watch-through rates, suggesting that her audience is deeply engaged rather than casually browsing. This pattern has continued across later releases, reinforcing her reputation as a reliable performer capable of generating consistent global interest. In an industry where attention often fluctuates rapidly, her catalog demonstrates a rare durability. Analysts say her career is entering a new phase, and fans may not be ready for the shift. As Thomas matures, her musical direction is evolving as well. Recent reports show her expanding beyond traditional covers into more ambitious projects, including original music and theatrical productions. Her West End involvement in 2024 marked her entry into professional stage performance, a move that analysts consider a strategic transition from digital success to broader artistic recognition. This shift has attracted attention not only from fans, but from critics who now view her as a developing theater vocalist with long-term potential. Her continued album releases show signs of creative growth, experimenting with themes and arrangements that differ from her earlier work. Industry experts suggest this diversification is critical for sustaining long-term relevance, especially for young artists who gained fame through online platforms. From a reporting perspective, the key development is that Thomas appears to be moving toward a career that spans both digital and traditional performance spaces. Her trajectory now raises new questions. How far will her theatrical involvement go, and will she eventually transition into original productions or film? These emerging possibilities are becoming central topics in current coverage. Her rise raises a bigger question. What does the modern audience really want from a vocalist? As media analysts reflect on Lucy Thomas' story, the narrative extends beyond one singer's growth. Her rise offers insight into shifting audience preferences toward authenticity, emotional resonance, and vocal clarity rather than shock value or stylized spectacle. Her journey demonstrates that success in the digital era does not always require controversy or aggressive marketing. Instead, consistent quality, relatable presentation, and emotional honesty can generate lasting attention. Thomas represents a growing trend of artists who bypass traditional industry hierarchies and instead build careers through sustained audience trust. From a reporter's perspective, the most compelling aspect of her trajectory is its understated nature. No viral scandals, no dramatic public rebrands, no engineered media arcs. What remains is a singer whose voice alone continues to carry momentum. As her career enters new creative phases, industry watchers are observing closely. The central question now is not whether she will grow further, but how her evolving sound will shape the next stage of her international presence.